Hello, I'm GiGi the Reader, and today I will be reviewing A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. So the story starts out with a woman named Diana Bishop, who was born into a long line of witches, a secret line of witches. She's from Madison, New York. She's a doctor who's still in college researching alchemy at Oxford College. Her family was originally from Massachusetts. She was raised by her Aunt Sarah from the age of 7, the age she was when her parents died while on a trip to Spain. She went on to study history and science at Oxford, where she earned her doctorate. At the beginning, she's still studying 17th century alchemy. Her Aunt Sarah wants her to spend more time with the Society of Witches. While one day in the college library, she meets a handsome vampire by the name of Matthew Clairemont. He's a professor of biochemistry and affiliated with Oxford Neuroscience at the John Clifford Hospital. First meeting, she didn't like him because she'd been taught that vampires were untrustworthy. Her aunt does not like her talking to a vampire. She tells her that they're more dangerous than demons and she should stay away and not get involved with him. The vampire/professor followed her home one night. He watched her through her bedroom window. Then he saw her fall asleep in her bedroom. He then slipped through an open window in the apartment. He was after a book she had found in the school's library, a very old manuscript she was researching. He couldn't find it, and he slipped out of her window and left her house. Her Aunt Sarah and Emily are also upset that she doesn't use her magic. Diana tells them she doesn't like using magic. Diana let the vampire Matthew Clairemont know she didn't like him after she suspected he'd been following her around the school grounds. She accuses him and a group of witches, demons, and another vampire associated with him of following her. One demon, a witch, and a vampire were following her. Matthew told her he was not associated with any of them. He tells her they're following her because she found something they've been looking for many years. The manuscript she'd been studying from the library, entitled Ashmole 782, was the name of the old book. He also warned her about a wizard that was following her and watching her in the library. Later, Diana looked up some of Professor Clairemont's studies on the school's website. She found out he studied the frontal lobe of the brain, not surprising since he was a doctor of neuroscience, but she also found he studied wolves in Scandinavia, Scandinavian and Norwegian wolves. Later, she wonders why everyone is infatuated with obtaining the Book of Ashmole. It's an alchemical manuscript. Alchemical is the study of turning metal into gold, which is just a myth. The book is over 400 years old. She talks with a friend of hers who's a scientist by the name of Christopher Roberts, but he doesn't know that Diana's a witch. She asked him what he might know about Professor Matthew Clairemont. He tells her he knows Clairemont wrote a fascinating book about wolves, the study of wolves and their mating habits, but he was known for his study of evolution and chemistry. The next day at the library, she runs into the Professor Clairemont again. This time he introduces her to his research colleague, Dr. Miriam Shepherd. Dr. Shepherd is a vampire. When she left for a lunch break from the library, she noticed Matthew had her followed by Miriam and a demon. Out of the blue, a demon named Agatha comes up to Diana and introduces herself and immediately starts talking about the book and how long she'd been searching for it. She tells Diana she knows she's a witch. She tells Diana she knows the book has emerged and witches were the ones who hid it away. Diana lets her know she doesn't know what she's talking about and she doesn't have the book. She lets her know she sent the book back to the library. She asks Agatha, what's so special about this manuscript? Agatha replies, the book explains why we're here. It tells our story, beginning, middle, even the end. We demons need to understand our place in the world. Our need is greater than that of witches or vampires. Diana replied, you know your place in the world. There are 4 kinds of creatures: humans, demons, vampires, and witches. Agatha snapped back at her, and where do demons come from? How are we made? Why are we here? Do you know where your powers come from? Do you? Diana replied, no. Agatha said, nobody knows. Every day we wonder. Humans thought demons were guardian angels at first, then believed we were gods bound bound to the earth and victims of our own passion. They accuse us of possessing their souls and making them insane. Demons are brilliant, but we're not. Not like vampires. We would never make someone insane. Even more than witches, we're victims of human fear and envy. Diana replied, witches have their share of nasty legends to contend with. Agatha the demon responded, witches are born to witches. Vampires make other vampires. You have family stories and memories to comfort you when you're lonely or confused. We have nothing but tales told to us by humans. Our only hope lies in brushing against other demons one day and knowing we're like them. So Diana finds out why the demons are looking for the book. They want to find their origins and how they came to be in the world. And the witches are hiding the books under a spell in the library and want to keep the book a secret from the other creatures. So Diana asks Agatha, why does Matthew Clairemont want the book? She shrugged and replied, vampires and witches don't share their thoughts with us. Not even your vampire tells us what he knows, though he's fonder of demons than most of his kind. So many secrets and so many clever humans these days. They'll figure it out if we're not careful. Humans like power, secrets too. She asked Diana to remember that she's not the only one who needs to know the secrets in the book, and Diana promised. Then later, after she went back to the library to study, Diana wondered if Professor Clairemont and the demon were so interested in the manuscript, why didn't they request it from the library? Oh God, it's okay, I'm sorry. This is my co-narrator. Okay, she's always late. This is Shaquita, the Fairy of the Bees, coming in. Hold on, let me go get the door. Wait a minute, I'm coming. Hold on, wait a minute. Wait. Oh, jeez. Always running late. Okay.
Okay, GiGi the reader. I know I'm late this time. Okay, right. I'm always running late. But okay, we're gonna try to get past that. But you know, GiGi the reader, I tried to get into this book and I just couldn't. You're better than me, GiGi the reader. Because at least you got through this book, because this seems so boring. I mean, I'm just saying. But just to get me caught up real quick, because I couldn't make it past the first chapter. So we're going to try to get into it.
Okay.
You claim it got better. As it went on.
Yes, it did.
Okay, but I'm not going to clown you on this one right here. I'm just going to clown you for reading this whole book, GiGi the reader. But, okay, could you just give us or give me a quick synopsis of the book? So I'm going to be quiet this time. I ain't going to interrupt you. Just a quick synopsis so you really get into the story. A quick synopsis. I know you already got into it and everything, but I don't want to slow you up. But just give me, I'm going to be quiet. Okay. Y'all be quiet if you're going to give us a quick synopsis. And then I'll let you know.
Okay, it's about Dr. Diana Bishop, who went to school at Oxford.
Boring! Alright. That's boring, GiGi. Next!
Oh my God. You know, move.
You know what?
Get away.
Okay, take your mic in.
Move.
Take your mic in, GiGi. Alright, go take your mic.
Thank you.
Alright. You know what, GiGi the reader? I'm tired of you pushing. You have to push me, GiGi. You have to push and snatch your microwave because you have to snatch your mic to get you, GiGi. So you want me to bring my bees in here because I am Shaquita, the Fairy of the Bees. I can bring my bees in here and it be on sight.
Whatever.
On sight, GiGi the reader. They will get with you.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, that's okay. That's alright. I'm going to get my own mic.
Get your own mic. Okay.
Alright, continue on.
Okay.
Hello, they can still hear me. I'm still here. I'm still hear the background, GiGi.
Oh my God.
They can still hear me. Hello. Okay, alright. I'm just playing, GiGi. Go ahead. Continue on.
Okay. Continuing on. In Chapter 7, Diana finally has breakfast with Professor Matthew Clairemont. He catches her walking down a campus sidewalk after her workout. At breakfast, Matthew asked her why she chose to study history and alchemy, and she said alchemy is one of the earliest forms of experimental science. Matthew replied, but you don't believe that alchemy is devoid of magic. I've read your work. Not even you can keep it away entirely. Then she responded, then it's science with magic or magic with science if you prefer. Which do you prefer? He asked. She said, I don't know. But she still didn't find why he was so interested in Ashmo 82. Weirdly enough, he invites her to a yoga class that's at a glitzy old manor. At the class, there were other witches, vampires, and demons. She's introduced to a witch named Amira, who's Indian. She finds out the manor is actually his house, but he doesn't always live there because it's too big. He lives at the Oxford campus during the week, but in the manor on the weekends. She finds out that Matthew had a sister that was killed by vampire slayers in Barbados. They get into a conversation about magic. He asked her why doesn't she like to use her witch's magic. She says she's never liked to use her magic because she just wants to be normal. She felt magic has contributed to the loss of her parents. Before he took her home, they argued about magic. Diana ended up telling him, this is a human world, Matthew, not a fairy tale. Humans outnumber and fear us, but there's nothing more powerful than human fear, not magic, not vampire strength, nothing. In the next chapter, we find out Matthew has a best friend, a demon named Hamish Osborne. He goes to visit him in Scotland. From what Matthew told Hamish about Diana, Hamish teased that he was probably falling in love with Diana. Hamish asked how he met Diana Bishop. Matthew told him about the book. He overheard two witches talking and heard that Diana had found the book, so he went to spy on her at the library. He tells Hamish he's not interested in Diana. He just wants the manuscript that he's been trying to get his hands on for more than 100 years. What was so important about the book, he asked. Matthew had always been convinced that he could use his scientific skills to figure out what was made vampires resistant to death and decay. He exclaimed to Hamish, it's the lost book, I know it. He basically says the book first belonged to the vampires and witches had stole it, but now demons were looking for the book too. And other witches are after the book too, which puts Diana in danger. Hamish tells Matthew if the book is bewitched, he won't be able to examine it anyway. Matthew states, I will if she helps me. We find out on page 104 that Hamish is gay. For some reason, the author wants us to know that Hamish is gay. Matthew confides to Hamish that he has an interest in Diana but does not want to make her a vampire. He doesn't want a love relationship with any other woman since the last one he'd fallen in love with. Her name was Eleanor, and he killed her and another woman 100 years ago by the name of Cecilia Martin. He actually turned Cecilia into a vampire, which was the same as death in his opinion, because he hated being a vampire. That's why he didn't want a relationship with Diana or any other woman again. The next chapter, Diana calls her aunts back home in New York. She tells them she went to yoga class with Matthew. They protest, telling her she should never hang around or trust a vampire. She tells them he's interested in a manuscript she found in a college library. She says she believes it has a witch's protective spell on it to keep it out of the hands of the vampires and demons, but she accidentally lifted the spell when she checked it out. She also tells them she sent the book back after reading it and believes the spell reset itself. Her aunt Sarah is very upset with her, telling her she should not have undid the spell and should not have sent the book back. Sarah is concerned now, saying this would draw demons and vampires to her, and she's put herself in danger. Her aunt Sarah and Em suggest she leave Oxford and come home to New York till things cool off, but Diana refuses to leave. She tells her aunt she'll stay in Oxford until her research is done. Diana introduces herself to a wizard who's been watching her in the library. His name is Peter Knock. He says he knew her parents. She tells him if he or anyone else wants the Ashmo 782, they can check the book out of the library themselves. She told him, please leave me alone. Diana gets into an argument with another witch named Gillian Chamberlain about her parents and about who killed them in Nigeria. Gillian says that they were killed by witches for keeping secrets from other witches, but Diana insists they were killed by humans. Gillian confronts Diana for turning down an invitation to a convent gathering. It's mandatory for witches. It's some type of witches meeting. She tells her a witch shouldn't keep secrets from other witches. Bad things happen when she does. At a group meeting with the school's warden, Diana runs into Peter Knox again, the wizard. He continues to question her about the book Ashmole 782. He asks did she know it was behind 782 behind Ashmole is a volume number. He asked did she know it was bewitched and why she sent it back after she found it. She told him because she was done with it and nothing piqued her interest in it. Because the book has been put under a powerful protective spell by witches over 100 years ago, making it impossible for anyone to check the book out, Diana inadvertently found out she had the power to lift the spell by touch. So far, she's the only one who can touch the book. Then Peter Knox tells her he nor any of the other witches approve of her relationship with the vampire Professor Clairemont, and it must stop. He goes on to tell her, I am concerned that you, a bishop, are associating with a vampire, and I'm concerned because we are perilously close to catching human attention. Finally, Peter Knox tells Diana the book belongs to witches, and that's why a witch put a protective spell on it. He tells her the manuscript belongs to us. We're the only creatures who can understand its secrets, and only creatures who can be trusted to keep them. She finally asks, what is in the manuscript? He tells her the first spells ever constructed, descriptions of the enchantments that bind the world together, the secret of immortality, how witches made the first demons, how vampires can be destroyed once and for all. It's the source of all our power, past and present. It cannot be allowed to fall into the hands of demons or vampires or humans. Next chapter, Diana runs into Matthew at the library and agrees to go to another yoga class with him again, mostly because she was upset with Peter Knox, the wizard. He showed up at the library eyeballing her. She felt more secure with Matthew at least. Peter Knox is referred to as a wizard, but really is a witch. We learned that wizards are male witches. Diana confides in Matthew that none of her human friends know she's a witch, and she has no witch friends besides her aunts Sarah and Em. He reminds her she told him witches and vampires couldn't be friends, but she tells him, I'll risk your bite before I let Peter Knox slither into my brain or fish for information. So Diana officially agreed that she and Matthew were friends when he asked, so we're friends? And she says yes. After that, they agreed to meet for dinner the next day. At this point in the story, I really hate this slow-moving kind of cornballish theme it has. The next day, they met for dinner at her place. A dinner she cooked and prepared. They take turns asking questions. She asked him what she smells like. What do I smell like? And he asks her what he smells like. Okay, so
Hold up, wait a minute. What did he ask her? And what she asked him? She asked him how she smelled, and he asked her how he smelled. But first of all, Matthew an old-ass vampire, and he's 1,500 years old. He most likely smell like cold cheese and salty balls, and Diana's horny butt probably smell like fish and hot sardines. What is that? That is just lean on over there, Diana, and take a good long whiff of some of that vampire funk. What type of, who asked us that? He might as well say, pull my finger. What the hell? What does it smell like? What do we smell like? Okay. Alright. Okay. Continue on.
Okay, being a vampire, Matthew is very old. So he bragged to her at dinner about seeing Halley's Comet in 1759, and in 1835 he drank and tasted chocolate. In 1615 bought a building permit from Henry VIII in 1536, and he bought a bottle of wine to dinner he bought in 1811. So probably she asked how old he was. He claimed to be born in the year 500 and became a vampire at the age of 37 in the year 537, which meant he was more than 1,500 years old. So she asked him a question Peter Knox told her to ask him. What were you doing in the fall of 1859? He retorted, what has Peter Knox been telling you? Then he answered, in September 59, I was looking through manuscripts in the Ashmolean Museum, and he mentioned something about the study of evolution, transmutations, and the magic existing in the real world. He'd been looking for the Ashmole book for 150 years and was told it was missing until Diana found it in the Bolden library at the college. Diana starts to understand why everyone is after the book. It is the last of Elias Ashmole's books. She asks Matthew. Knox believes that the manuscript contains the secret of immortality. I have heard the demon and witch version of the story. Now I want yours. Matthew replied, vampires believe that the lost manuscripts explains our longevity and our strength. Our fear is that this secret, if it fell into witches' hands, would lead to our extermination. Some fear that magic was involved in our making and that the witches might find a way to reverse the magic and destroy us. It seems that part of the legend might be true. After the long conversation, she walked him to the door and they had their first kiss.
The end.
No, it's not the end.
What? That's not the end?
No. It's 300 more pages.
300 more pages? Why come it can't be the end? Look, GiGi, isn't the story about a book that the vampires, the witches, and the demons won't? And we already found out the witches think they put a spell on it because they think it belongs to them and no one else. And then accidentally checked it out because she just happened to be doing some research. She got hold to the book. And the witches put a spell on it because they don't want nobody else to get it. And she accidentally broke the spell. So now she knows the demons want it because they want to know where they originated from. But they don't believe the humans when the humans say that they're fallen angels. They think the answer's in a book. Just some hidden words up under the real words. And then we found out where all the vampires want the book, like Professor Matthew Clairemont. We found out where he wants the book because they want to know why vampires are immortal and where they originated from. So, and then they kiss, got a romance, happily ever after. The end, right?
No. No. Get away from my mic.
Okay, GiGi, take your mic there, GiGi. That's okay, y'all. They can still hear me.
Bye.
GiGi just took the mic from me.
Ignore her.
Okay, GiGi the reader. That's okay. I can get my own mic, GiGi the reader. Hello? Woo-hoo. I'm still here.
Okay, moving along.
I'm still here, GiGi. I mean, they can still hear me. I need my own mic, you know. You take your mic in. Take your mic back. But continue on. It's okay, y'all. I'm still here.
Oh my
Get my own
God.
mic, GiGi the reader. Continue on. Continue on.
Okay, well anyway, Matthew reveals that what and why they are studying these things. He tells her that vampires are dying and they are in danger of becoming extinct. He tells her these result from botched attempts to transform humans into vampires. What was once second nature to us has become difficult. Our blood is increasingly incapable of making new life out of death.
Well, damn, that's a good thing, GiGi the reader. If the vampires are losing their ability to change humans into vampires, that's a good thing. She should not be helping him get hold of the book. I don't think God should be helping Matthew. That's a good thing. If they're losing their ability to change humans into vampires, then listen to the aunts and leave him alone. I'm just saying, GiGi the reader. Okay.
I guess.
Alright, back to the story. Continue on.
Okay, he said, our blood is increasingly incapable of making new life out of death. His assistant Miriam tells her the witches are becoming extinct. Miriam tells her modern witches aren't as powerful as their ancestors were, and you don't produce as many children as in the past. But Diana isn't convinced in their studies and tells them they're just subjective assessments. In conclusion to their studies find that creatures, witches, demons, and vampires are dwindling, making up less and less of the world's population, only 10%. Matthew said what set creatures apart from humans was the fact that they had one more chromosome than humans. They have 23 chromosomes compared to witches, demons, and vampires having 24 chromosomes.
Wait a minute, GiGi the reader. That don't sound right to me. Extra chromosome means that they will be Down syndrome. What kind of scientists are they? They ain't that bright. Matthew and Diana, they both scientists. They study science. They not that bright. Because from what little I know about chromosomes in science, GiGi the reader, is that extra chromosome will make them Down syndrome, which will make them, I don't know, kind of slow.
I guess.
I'm just saying, it probably would be. Matthew seemed like he retarded. I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
Matthew seemed that would make them all something wrong with them. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Alright. Take your mic back. Back to the story. Continue on.
Okay. So Dinah let them draw her blood to study her birth date, August 13th, 1976. They took a swab of her saliva too. After visiting the lab, they went to another yoga class. He then dropped her off and went home. The next chapter, they went out to dinner to his second home on the college grounds, a building at All Souls College. In the midst of their dinner and wine tasting and sipping, Matthew jumps up and grabs Diana and threatens to taste her blood. He snatched her up from her chair but resisted and slowly lowered her back down to her chair. Then he told her, "Promise me that you will never joke about blood or how you might taste."
What?
Yeah.
I'm confused, GiGi. What type of scene was that? He snatched her up and said, I'm reading it. He said he snatched her up from her chair but resisted and slowly lowered her back down and said, "Promise me that you will never joke about blood or how you might taste." They had the most awkward, weirdest moments together, to me, GiGi. And this is just some cornball mess. What is this right? This is just so cornballish. It's not even romantic. It's not even cute. So what was they supposed? That was supposed to be some kind of Gomez and Morticia Adams type moment they had together, but he had to resist. He had to resist biting her. What was that about? They took boy corny.
Yes, I guess. Okay. Okay, move.
Take your bite back. Okay. You're on.
After that, they changed the subject and talked about his first years at Oxford. Before their date ended, Diana brought up the book. She said, "I made a decision, Matthew. On Monday, I'll be recalling Ashmo 782. Matthew was shook. It was what everybody who'd been watching and spying on her were waiting for. The demons, the witches, Peter Knox, Matthew, everybody. She told him, "I don't know how I broke the spell the first time, but I'll try to do it again." Knox doesn't have much faith that I'll succeed. She didn't know how she broke the spell the first time she received the book, but said, "I broke the spell without realizing it." Matthew let her know he was concerned for her safety, then walked her back home. The next chapter, Diana shows up at the library as usual to study. Matthew, as usual, shows up to guard her from the male witch / wizard, Peter Knox, and the demons. Peter Knox showed up, sees Diana sitting near Matthew and calls her a traitor, then tells her all the other witches feel the same way. Matthew almost squared off with Peter until he walked away.
Oh, so they square off in the library. So Matthew tried to look tough. And he trying to prove to Diana he gonna protect her. So Matthew trying to show Peter Knox that he about that life. And they get loud in the library. Okay. So they about the thug life, getting loud in the college library.
Right.
Oh, so Matthew, you about that life, Matthew, okay. So he showed up, he gonna square off with Peter Knox. Peter probably some old ass, frail ass man. So he gonna flex on Peter Knox, old ass wizard.
I guess.
Matthew ain't about nothing, but okay. Alright. He tried to take up with his girl. Okay. Next, continue with the story. Go ahead.
Okay.
Continue on.
This time, when Diana requested the Ashmo manuscript, Sean, the librarian, told her it was missing. When she said she checked it out before, the head librarian told her it had been missing for over 150 years. When they leave the library, Diana stops and tells Peter Knox, the book is missing. Knox looks at Matthew and tells Diana it's a good thing because we cannot let our history fall into the hands of animals like him. Then he tells her witches and vampires don't mix. Matthew threatens to kill Peter Knox right there on the spot.
Wow, so Matthew's still trying to prove he about that life. Now he already let Peter know they squared off in the library. So now he threatened to kill him. He said he's gonna kill him on the spot. GiGi the reader. So I don't know. Matthew said he about that life. I guess Peter old ass gonna take his old ass on unless he got a spell to cast. I don't know. We're gonna see.
Yep.
Okay. Wait a minute now, GiGi. Look like Matthew flexed on the wrong one. I got a recording.
What?
I got a recording, GiGi,
Yeah.
of a fight that broke out in the parking lot after Matthew threatened Peter Knox. You know, Peter Knox might be an old frail ass man, but he got his sidekicks and witches with him. And one of them witches is one of them transgender queers, one of them transgenders. He got an old witch with him that's trans and that's friends with Peter. And her name's Sunny Girl. And she wasn't having it. She heard what Matthew said to Peter in that library, and it spilled out into the parking lot. And she told Matthew she'd whoop his ass. I kid you not. She told Matthew don't threaten her friends. She one of them big old queer, one of them big transgenders. And she told her name Sunny Girl, and she said she would knock Matthew smooth out, and Matthew's threatened somebody he don't hit women, he got spray. She said, I got spray too, and I'll spray you and beat your ass. I'm just a GiGi. Okay, I'm gonna play the recording. Here's the recording for I got it for y'all. Here we go. All right, here we go. I'm playing for y'all. Here we go.
Oh my God. Okay, so here's the recording that Shaquita claimed to have. Okay, here we go.
I'll knock you out, and I got my pistol in the car, and I'll shoot you right now. So play with me if you want to. Don't threaten me to go do no motherfucking thing. You don't got to see me. You don't have to see me. You see me right here. You, bye, go. 2250 East 114 motherfucking Street. Apartment 434. Call them. Call them. I just told you where I'm at. I didn't do nothing to you. You got in somebody's business. And that's my friend in there. He said something to my friend. And well, you got into something that you wasn't supposed to be in. That's my friend. And you said something to me. I didn't say nothing to you. You got out of your car and said something to me. And that's my friend. And that's my friend. I'm a boy now. Get these hands. Get these hands. I bet I knock you out. I bet I knock you out. Let me get... Nigga, I got spray too. We could be spraying too. Nigga, I got spray too. I got spray too. What the fuck you thought this was? I got spray too. Now what's that? Now what's that? Spray. You applying. You trying to... Are you spray? Spray. 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 You don't see me right now. You see me right now. You see... And go over there. My name is Sunny Girl. You don't got to see me. You see me right here. You see me right here, Sunny Girl. You don't got to find me, bitch. I'm right here. Shit, you up there worrying about my fucking friend. Oh well, I didn't say shit to her. It don't matter. You mad because I went to go ask you because you're lunch. I don't give a fuck. He mad because he went in there and asked he out here having a conversation and he supposed to be at work and he gonna go in there and confront my friend about a man. You shut the fuck up. Make me shut up. Make me shut up. This is all recorded. Look at his short ass. Ain't nothing but a bum. Look what she's driving. Look what I drive. Look what I don't have a piece of shit. I work daily. Boy, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Right. I'm at work right now with you. I'm at work with you right now. I'm running it. I'm going to keep on running it. I'm going to keep on running it. I'm going to keep on running it. You scary. Here, fag. You don't got to see me. I'll knock you out right now. You have to get made. You scary. You scary. You got made. You scary. I bet you scared to get beat up in front of him. I got one hit quitter. I'll knock you out. I got one hit quitter. I'll knock you out. And she gonna be picking you up. Laughing. And she gonna be picking you up. Girl, shut up. Suck my ass. Suck my ass. Suck my ass. And when you go over there, ask my brother. Bitch, I have 3 brothers over there waiting. In front of the gym, bitch.
Bye, Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown. You mad? You mad?
With them Charlie Browns.
You mad? Y'all come around. Y'all.
Wow. Okay. All right. Moving on. Matthew told her it would be safer if she stayed at his place that night. But they stopped by her place to get some things first. While there, she checked by her mail and found someone had sent her crime scene pictures of her parents' bodies when they were killed. They were grotesque pictures that made Diana faint. She figured it was the witches who had been watching her who sent the pictures. Her parents had been killed in Nigeria when she was 7 years old. It was rumored that the witches had killed them. Marcus Matthews' lab assistant finds something in Diana's DNA. Something about Diana having more than 24 sequences of DNA. Then Marcus brings up a secret society called the Congregation that Peter Knox was part of. A 9-member council of demons, witches, and vampires formed during the Crusades, 3 representatives from each species. The congregation's job was to ensure every creature's safety by seeing to it that no one caught the attention of humans.
Well, so we got to the part about the secret society called the Congregation. Did you read it?
Yep.
Oh, I got the 411 on that. Oh, that's some good gossip. Them 3 witches and 3 demons and 3 vampires. You know, most of them vampires are straight gay. Them gay boys. Most of them vampires. They are gay boys. What? And most of the witches are trannies. They queens, big queens. And it's a rumor going around. They fight amongst each other all the time. I heard about them. They are straight up ghetto. I mean, and they fight. They can't even get along with each other. I don't know how they call themselves the Congregation in the first place. I'm trying to tell you, GiGi, to read out and heard about them.
Wow.
Okay, I'm just saying. I ain't got nothing against gay or transgender, but most of the witches are trans, and they do not get up. They fight all the time. I got a record, and one of them accusing the other of banned DIC. Okay.
Wow.
Yes. This ain't gonna be the Congregation involved. This book review will not be a PG-13 because one of the trannies, transgender, accused one of the witches, then accused one of the gay boy vampires of buying dick, and they got into a big thing. And it was on one of they don't meet in person. They have the Zoom calls. They do the Zoom for the conference calls with Zoom. And let me tell you. They do their conference call and they get into it. The one transgender accused the other one of being, I don't know if she's a biologically born female witch that's accusing this gay boy vampire of buying dick. I'm sorry. I hate to put it down like that, but that's what GiGi, I'm trying to get a recording. I ain't gotta make none of this up. I ain't making, okay, here we go. I'm not gonna waste your time. I got receipts.
Okay.
I got receipts, GiGi. Here we go.
Okay, so this is Shaquita. This is not me. This is my co-narrator, Shaquita. The Prayer of the Bees says she got conference call, Zoom meeting recording of these congregation vampire and a witch accusing one of the gay vampires of buying DICK or buying sex, to put it the best way. Okay, here we go. Here's the recording.
Did y'all see any receipt of that? Did you or anybody?
No, that's what I'm about to say. Outside of what y'all showed on the net when y'all was together, no. I haven't seen nothing except for him talking about you gave him $1,100 and all this money.
Oh, he said I gave him $1,100. He said that?
Yeah, it was like the people was going around talking about you gave him $1,100, you gave him $200 and all this type of shit, but I ain't never seen no receipts on it. I just know how
he could never say that. But I'm trying to figure out why.
Preston, I want to ask you a question.
I'm trying to give you a receipt, Preston. You want to talk to her after the fact or what? Because I'll go read. I'm trying to give you a receipt.
Take your fat funky ass home and take
I got it. All right.
ugly bitch.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Preston.
Bad bitch. Bad your fat slob. Get your fat funky ass home. You all, with the receipts is, you paid for this. And Ain't nobody giving you no free dick, you fat bitch. Anyway, Precious, fuck that fat bitch. He deserves to get milk like the cow he looks like. Fuck you, bitch. And pull that up. You fat, funky, nasty, lob, googling, looking bitch. Bitch, running around here looking like some shit off the fucking Ghostbusters. You ugly bitch. Nah. He paid for the dick. He always paid for it. Ain't nobody fucking that away free. Fuck him. I had to go get my voice together. Bring your ass back up here, bitch. I'm ready. Bring your fat ass back up here. Ain't seen your dick since the 80s. Nasty bitch. Anyway, Press, let's line back up. We already know the receipts. He paid for dick. Period. Point blank. And he trying to sit here and make himself look like he did. You pay for everything. You are paymaster. Now pull those receipts. You fat bitch. Press, let me get on my own page.
I hate this shit, okay? I hate this shit, okay? It's shit.
It's just his money and he want to pay for whatever. Let him. Who's paying for talking? Let's make it make sense. Is she even
bitch? And I said what the fuck I did.
Like something off the animal planet, girl. Stop saying you a woman, girl.
And I'm bad, bitch. But
you can't even have ugly. I don't get it.
I said, he got to pay for dick. We can tell that you are off your hormones, bitch. Your face is strong, your motherfucking jaw is rocking, and that wig is fucked up. Girl, go get your football playing big ass down somewhere, bitch, and get some feminine ass surgery, you fucking rock ass bitch. Girl, let me get out there before I tear these hoes up. You bitches got me fucked up, bitch. I look more woman than you. Ain't nobody talk about ugly when you got all that goddamn makeup on and that fucking filter. Girl, you look like somebody old ass granddaddy that smokes cigarettes. You wrinkle face ass bitch. And I said what the fuck I
You
did.
look like something off the animal planet, girl. Stop saying you a woman, girl. You are opposite trained. You are opposite trained. You look like you look like a real bitch. You look like that fucking thing off a line. How dare you compare yourself to a real woman, bitch? You are a trans. You are a trans man. That's what the fuck you do. You talk about I ain't about you. You look like a man. You man built this. If it wasn't for your outside, bitch, your titties, you like a brown skinny cherry bull. Your titties go outside, your ass look like it's falling off. Bitch, all your flowers and your bitch, just stop it, girl. You are nowhere close to a real woman, bitch. You are nothing else to this womanly. You got He-Man built so first time I saw you, I said, who this little tranny is? Who the fuck is this little tranny is, girl? Now, Precious, I want to give you some receipts, but I can't tell you. I'm just going to get somebody else, girl. Get this real beast off the line. Get this nigga off the line. This nigga look like Rashika off the Rotten Lion King. Get this. Oh, girl. Yeah, that's me. Look at yourself.
You look like?
I put that out there. I put that out there.
Look at your ugly ass. What the
Look, bro.
fuck?
Say, bro.
You fat, green
Not fat. Oh, my God.
What
Not
are you
fat.
talking about? You have no right to talk
You read, girl. You call me
You
fat,
look like
girl.
you a state.
You read. You call me fat, girl. You read.
Look at your fat man.
Girl.
How
Okay,
you
bro.
talk?
All right,
Look
y'all.
at you. Look
Okay,
at you.
can I pull you up?
Look at you, bitch.
Can I pull you up?
Look at you.
Let me look at you. Now,
You're
look at you.
ugly, bitch.
Okay, oh my God.
You're
Okay.
ugly.
Not telling me ugly. I thought you were
Fuck
ugly.
you,
That's how you know, son. Ugly as a
Go get your shit together.
Let me, okay, I'll pull you up. Now look.
Wake up, chick. You're
Hold on,
ugly. Don't nobody want you, Shamu. They look like Shamu. You ugly than a fuck.
Let's pull up pump. Let's pull up pump. Now look at you, Funky. Now look at you. You ugly. Look, you ugly. Your body is crooked. Look, you ugly.
Look at you.
Look at Pumpkin.
I don't
Now,
gotta get no
look at you.
pictures.
Look at you,
Look at you.
Pumpkin. Look at you, Pumpkin.
You look like a
ugly.
silverback.
Your body crooked. You got
You
all that
look like
shit
a
around your
silverback.
eyes. You walk around
You
with
look
a
like
cane.
a silverback.
This is you. Pumpkin,
You ugly
this is
as
you.
fuck.
You ugly. You're fat. You're
Whew, okay. All right, that's enough of that. Wow. Okay, we find out that Marcus is Matthew's vampire son. He made him a vampire in the year 1781. Matthew tells Marcus he plans to take Diana to his home or manor he refers to as Woodstock to protect her from Peter Knox and the other witches while he travels to visit his friend Hamish in Scotland. Then he contemplates taking Dinah to his mother's house. His mother's name is Isabel. She's known to hate witches and killed many witches in the past. Marcus tells him that's why it's not a good idea to take Dinah under the same roof with her. But because his mother hates witches, all the better. He knows she'll protect Dinah from the witches who may want to kill her. He calls his mother's home Septours, and Diana will be safe there. He tells Marcus he and his assistant Miriam will move there with Diana to watch over her. The next day after Diana woke from the shock and long sleep she'd taken, Matthew told her of his plans to take her to his home in France where his mother lived. He said she needed protection from the witches who probably wanted to see her dead, namely Peter Knox, the head witch, because they knew Diana had the ability to obtain Ashmole and break the spell on it. When her Aunt Sarah called her, telling her she'd been concerned about her, Matthew snatched the phone and told her flat out that she was in danger and being threatened by other witches and Peter Knox. She didn't want to alert her aunt, but it was too late. Matthew had already told her. Her aunt quickly warned her about Knox and said her father had a history of troubles with Knox. Dinah didn't even know Knox knew her father. Now she was really scared. Sarah warned Dinah to stay away from Peter Knox and to come home to New York immediately, but Dinah told her she'd already decided to go to Matthew's home in France. As he said before, she'd meet his vampire mother, Isabel, the woman who made him a vampire. Chapter 19 is mostly about Dinah meeting Matthew's mother and their house servant, Martha. Side note, the author describes Isabel's mansion and Matthew's bedroom in an over-exaggerated T. Eventually, he introduces Dinah to his horse in the stables named Belsmarth and his two dogs, Fallon, a wolfhound, and Hector, a mastiff, and 6 other horses. Diana has her own large guest room in the mansion. Although she had dinner with Matthew and his mother the night before, she noticed Isabel showed a dislike for her when they first meet. At dinner, Diana felt like she showed a hate for her because she hated witches in general, so she asked Matthew why she hated witches so much. Matthew told her it was because she was jealous of their power, a witch's ability to see the future and bear children. Before Isabel was made into a vampire, by her husband, she was a seer and was young enough to bear children, but lost both abilities when she was made into a vampire without her permission. Finally, Matthew decides to share Diana's DNA results with her. The DNA showed that Diana, as a witch, obtained over a dozen powers. Unusual because witches, on average, never have more than 1 or 2 powers, but it was possible Diana had multiple powers. One of flight, finding lost things, talking to the dead, mortification, telekinesis, charms, curses, spell casting, mind reading, telepathy, and empathy. It was hard for her to believe, but Matthew told her all the powers may never manifest, saying, but you've inherited the generic predisposition for them. Markers in her DNA also showed she had a talent for witchcraft.
Oh, so Diana got all these powers, multiple powers, according to her DNA, according to what Matthew and Marcus says. Oh, so she all of that. She got telekinesis and transmogrification, and she can cast spell and mind read and have telepathy and fly too. She got the possibility to fly, GiGi. But she flew on a plane to France with Matthew.
Yeah.
Like if she didn't fly ass on a broom instead of getting the plane, she could have flown. Like if she couldn't fly ass to France instead of getting on the plane, GiGi. I'm just saying. She want to impress me, seriously, GiGi. Come up with that winning lottery number.
Yeah.
Come up with the Powerball number. That's what you can do all this mind reading and telepathy and telekinesis and all this. Come up with that winning lottery number. That's what I want to see, GiGi. She want to impress me. What's the next Powerball number? That's what I'm talking about, GiGi. Whatever. Okay. All right. Moving on. Here's your mic back. Continue on.
Okay. Later that evening, after showering, she met Matthew in his library and studied a book he lent her called The Aurora consurgence. While in his library, she found a book he wrote on the study of creatures, vampires, witches, and demons. He wrote the book in 1859. Matthew thought it was possible that demons, humans, vampires, and witches shared common ancestors. But he evaded her in his laboratory when she asked whether they were one species of four, but he couldn't do so in his library. So she asked him, "Do you still believe that creatures and humans are descended from common parents? Is it possible that the differences between us are merely racial?" He said, "I told you in the lab I didn't know." They went back and forth a little and switched the conversation. Later they met for dinner with his mother Isabel and the servant Martha. After dinner, Matthew played music on the stereo. Matthew danced a waltz with his mother as Diana and Martha watched. She noticed they were good dancers. Next, he asked Diana to dance. Reluctantly, she did. She didn't like it at first and closed her eyes as they danced. She got better and felt like they were gliding across the floor. When the song ended, she opened her eyes. Matthew smiled at her and told her to look down as he held her close still. When she looked down, she saw her feet actually floating a few inches off the floor. It was her first experience of flying, a power she knew some witches had and one they showed in her DNA blood test, but it was the first time she'd actually done it. Although Matthew said it wasn't really flying but floating. Isabel was shocked that it was Diana's first time testing her abilities to fly, but Matthew explained to his mother that Diana didn't believe in using any of her powers. Isabel frowned at her and said, "Enough of such childishness. It's time for you to grow up, Diana, and accept responsibility for who you are." Matthew said, "You are telling her what to do. It's not your job." Isabel snapped, "Nor is it yours, my son." Diana quickly responded, "Excuse me, it's my decision when and how to use my magic, but it can't be ignored by any longer. It seems to be bubbling out of me. I need to learn how to control my power at the very least." With that, the conversation ended. Matthew walked Diana back to her room and gave her a long and passionate kiss on the stairs and complimented her on her beauty.
The end.
No, it's not the end.
What? That's not the end.
No.
I mean, look. She done met him. They done went to meet his mother in France at her Chateau Saptours. She done met the servant Martha, his mother Isabel. They done had a dance together. She done met the horses. Then she done met his 2 dogs. She see where he lives at. She done seen both his houses. They had a romantic kiss. And this book is boring. Okay, except for the congregation, the most exciting part. But we should be done with this. Come on now.
No.
DJ reader. Come on.
It's 300 more pages.
Oh my God. How many more pages we got to go with this?
300.
Okay. Alright. Okay, I guess we can look forward to the congregation getting together and beating the hell out of Matthew. Because I'm waiting for this part. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not saying they are, but I look forward. I hope they are. But other than that, the congregation, they got it popping. But we'll see what happens. I really didn't read though. We'll see. I'm hoping something happened. But alright. Continue on.
Okay, Diana invited him to her bedroom. She felt ready to consummate their relationship, but Matthew declined the invitation, telling her they had plenty of time.
He's still not ready to consummate the relationship. Well, Matthew is 1,500 years old. He probably can't even get it up no more.
Oh my God.
Okay, alright. Okay.
Get away.
Alright, okay. Take the mic back. Alright. I'm just saying. Okay. Continue on.
Okay, next in chapter 21, we meet a new character, one of Matthew's longtime acquaintances, a vampire named Domenico, not a friend, but an enemy, that was standing outside the gates of his mother's estate. He was leaning against a tree where Matthew noticed when Matthew noticed him while he and Diana were taking a morning stroll. He refused to introduce Diana to him when he inquired about her. Matthew told her quickly to go inside the house. Domenico looked at her and said, "This must be the witch I've heard so much about." As Diana was turning to go inside, Isabel showed up and confronted Domenico and told him he was an uninvited guest at her home. He quickly told her and Matthew, I'll be gone quickly if you let me deliver my message. If I have to come back, I won't be alone." Today's visit was a courtesy to you, Isabel. The congregation clearly forbids any liaisons between a vampire and a witch. She doesn't have the book, Matthew said sharply. Domenico said, I'm not here about the witch's damn book, Matthew. Let them keep it. I've come from the congregation. He looked at Diane and said, my name is Domenico Michele. I have known Matthew since I was reborn and Isabel nearly as long. I know neither of them so well as I know the lovely Louisa, of course. But we should not speak lightly of the dead. The Venetian crossed himself piously. Matthew replied, you should not speak of my sister at all. Diana asked him, who are you and why are you concerned about who I spend my time with? Domenico responded, she is more fiery than most of her kind I see. Is that why that's why you're risking everything to keep her with you? Does she amuse you, or do you intend to feed on her until you get bored and then discard her, as you have with other warm bloods? Feeling guilty? Matthew told Diana, go back in the house immediately. Domenico boldly replied, not before the witch hears what I have to say. I have come to serve you a warning, Diana Bishop. Relationships between witches and vampires are forbidden. You must leave this house and no longer associate with Matthew de Clairemont or any of his family. If you don't, the congregation will take whatever steps are necessary to preserve the covenant. Diana replied, I don't know your congregation, and I agreed to no such covenant. Besides, covenants aren't enforceable. They're voluntary. Domenico replied, are you a lawyer as well as a historian? You modern women with your fine education are so fascinating, but women are no good at theology. When the covenant was sworn, it bound all vampires, demons, and witches, past and present and future. This is not the path you can follow, or not as you please. Matthew responded, you delivered your warning, Domenico. Domenico turned back to Matthew and said, that's all I have to say to this witch. I have no more to say.
Wow, so here we got Domenico coming on their property, talking about what he gonna do, tomorrow he got it, what they come to, tomorrow he representing that ghetto-ass congregation. Now, let y'all hear some recordings from the congregation, GiGi the reading. You know how they get down. You know how ghetto they are. Anyway, I'm going to tell you right now, you know, Domenico is straight up gay. He is gay as a jaybird. He tried to get with Matthew at one point. So anyway, when you know how them gay boys is, and when his mama Isabel come out there and told him to get off her property, he threatened her. Yes, he did. He threatened, I got a recording. Now, you're not going to believe it, GiGi, the reader, but I got a recording. And him telling Matthew's mama that he whipped her on her, right in front of her house.
Wow.
I got a recording. And this is what he said. This is what Domenico said to Isabel, Matthew's mama, before he was trying to get them to go inside, because Matthew, I think, about to whoop off into Domenico, but we're going to see. I'm going to let you hear the recording, what he said to Isabel. Because Isabel thinks she bad, but anyway, here it is, GiGi. Here's the recording, GiGi. Okay.
Ain't no accident, bitch. Ain't no accident. Look, she look disabled. Bitch, you look disabled.
No,
you an old bitch and can't take it.
Car accident.
You,
my motherfucking leg.
Girl, that's all that silicone. Bitch, you old. You old. Girl, you're an old ass bitch.
Right, my nigga, it's my leg.
Girl, bitch, I'll beat your ass on the crib, bitch. I don't give a fuck about you and that motherfucking whatever you from, bro. Bitch, what? Girl, we got the same niggas, the same boys and everything, bitch. Who the fuck you think I'm, bitch? I'm from East Town, PJ Watts Crib, bitch. Bitch, don't ever threaten me to do a motherfucking thing, ho. Bitch, you got grooms and I got grooms. Bitch, I got them from the West Coast, the East Coast, the South Coast, bitch. Bitch, we on two different hoes. Bitch, you don't want these hands, blocker. Bitch, man, you can twirl. Bitch, I know I'll beat your ass, bitch. Let's get in the ring, let's get in the streets, bitch. Cause bitch, wherever you at, bitch, we can meet up. Girl.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So finally, Matthew had Martha and Isabel go inside the house and take Dinah with them. Dinah followed, but after Dinah was rushed inside by Martha and Isabel, all three women climbed upstairs to the roof, where Isabel raised a flag from a pole on the roof. The banner had a symbol of Ouroboros. It waved over Septours. The Ouroboros was the family's emblem. Moments later, a similar banner rose over the top of a building in the village, and a bell began to toll. Men and women slowly came out of houses, bars, shops, and offices. Their faces turned towards Septours. Dinah looked over at Isabel with a puzzled look. Isabel exclaimed, "Our family's emblem, and a warning to the village to be on their guard. We fly the banner only when others are with us." Dinah gazed down at Domenico and asked Isabel, "Who the hell is he?" Isabel responded, "One of Matthew's oldest friends, which makes him a very dangerous enemy." All of a sudden, a fight broke out in the yard between Matthew and Domenico. Her attention turned to Matthew, who continued to exchange words with Domenico across a precisely drawn zone of engagement. There was a blur of black and gray movement. Then Domenico was hurtled backwards toward the chestnut tree he had been leaning against when he first spotted him. A loud crack carried across the grounds. "Well done," Isabel muttered.
So it sounds like Matthew beat the hell out of Domenico.
Mm-hmm.
They say he was hurtled backward towards the chestnut tree he had been leaning against. It was like a loud crack carried across the grounds. Sounds like Matthew cracked Domenico across his ass and threw him across the yard.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it said, GiGi.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Ooh-wee. Yeah, he sounded like he beat the hell out of Domenico. Oh, and then we hear Matthew talking big stuff, talking about he run his block don't run him, and he this and that. Well, he big and bad now since he beat the hell out of Domenico. Oh, he was talking much stuff after that. Out there yelling in the yard about what he just did. Oh, he big and bad now. I got the receipts, GiGi. I got the recording. You want to hear it? Okay. All right, let's play the recording. Matthew just don't know how to act. Okay, here we go. Here's the recording.
If you really think, hold on, let me put something down to you, and I'm gonna keep it straight certified. If you really think a nigga gonna come on my turf and touch me, nigga, you got to get some. You big man, sniffing all that fucking coke over there. He big mad right now, cause I done pulled this bitch ass card. Not you and that skeletal looking ass bitch you got. Nigga, that bitch look like the puppet master. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? You big dummy. Why you leave? Cause that man knew the truth was coming out. He knew the truth was coming out. I got beat up. Yo, cuz, who am I in the hood, cuz, for real? Who am I? I'm a what? Thank you. Did I have to tell him to say that I'm a SIG A-Tray homie, nigga? No.
Nigga, he cool my SIG, so it's like,
Nigga, his SIG is my man. His big homie is my man.
This is like, bro.
Hey, what was mama?
Like, you talking about shit that ain't...
Nigga, you niggas is dumb. You niggas is dumb, cuz. I control the block. The block don't control me. Ain't no man ever gonna tell me get off my block without suffering repercussions, nigga. You dumb. Real talk. You dumb, nigga. I ain't getting ran over no block, nigga. No block.
Okay. All right. So moving on, and Chapter 21 ends with Isabel, Matthew's mother, begging Dinah to obey the covenant rules about the witches, vampires, and demons not socializing and befriending one another. But Dinah tells Isabel she can't tell Matthew what to do either. Neither does she want to. The next day, while in the study at Septours, Diana met with Martha, Isabel, and Matthew. She received a frantic phone call from her Aunt Sarah. She sensed something was wrong and she was in danger. She told her she was all right because she was with Matthew. Sarah scolded her and told her it was Matthew's fault she was in all this mess, but Diana was upset with her aunt for not telling her about the covenant and the witches who were among the current members. Her aunt told her she felt the covenant was not relevant to her life, nor was the congregation, since she chose not to use her powers. Matthew's attitude and demeanor was distant from her now. He told her they'd have to obey the laws of the covenant now, since they found out about their forbidden relationship. A witch and a vampire, they would have to return to Oxford in a few days. She was angry and asked, "Why are we giving in?" He told her it was to keep the peace. At Septours you may be protected from Peter Knox, but he told you before that you aren't safe around vampires. Diana said, "The congregation will try to stop me, but they won't tell me who to love." Matthew replied, "And if you stand up to them, what then? Bringing these animosities to the surface could spin out of control, expose us to humans. Your family might suffer." Diana said, "I love you and I'm not going to stop." Matthew replied, "You're not in love with me." She said, "I decide who I love and how and when. Stop telling me what to do, Matthew. My ideas about vampires may be romantic, but your attitudes toward women need a major overhaul." Just then, Matthew received a call from Oxford. It was Marcus. Something had happened there. Matthew announced they had to leave for Oxford right away. Someone tried to break into his lab, but they weren't successful. But he wanted to return as soon as possible. He told Diana it would be safer for her to stay behind the Septours with his mother, Isabel, and Martha. He said he had to go to deal with Peter Knox. He felt she'd be safer there, away from Knox. Diana recanted. What about Domenico Michele? He was a danger to her also. She said he would go to negotiate with Peter Knox first. And she asked, with what? He said, the book, Ashmore 782. He can have the manuscript. Let him and the witches keep it. While Matthew's away, Diana and Isabel get to know each other more. She tells Diana she used to have psychic visions when she was human, but before she became a vampire, but she lost the ability when she became a vampire. She said when she was human, her husband Philip knew the King of France. Matthew's father was a farmer. Her and her husband knew Matthew's parents. Matthew's father was a carpenter before he became a stonemason. Matthew's natural parents died young. His mother died first when he was in his teens. Matthew married a girl named Bianca. When he was 25, she was 19. They had a child in the year 531, a boy named Lucas. But fever came to their village in the year 536, and Bianca and Lucas died. He kept working as a stonemason, helping to build a church in the village he lived in. One day he fell from a ceiling and broke his legs and back. Some thought he might have been a suicide attempt. It might have been a suicide attempt from the mourning of his wife and son. Isabel said she could not let him die, fearing he might be saved from hell. When Isabel and her husband told him they could make him live forever without suffering, he was out of his mind with pain and thought they were John the Baptist and Blessed Mother, and so he drank Isabel's blood, thinking it was the priest offering him his last rites. Then Diana told Isabel she would always love Matthew and never leave him. Isabel taunted her by asking her, "And will you do that? Would you become a vampire then?" That's what Domenico suggested. One simple bite, the exchange of our blood for yours. The congregation would have no grounds to intrude on your business then. Don't you see? Isabel snarled, "If you must be with Matthew, then become one of us and put him and yourself out of danger. The witches may want to keep you as their own, but they cannot object to your relationship if you're a vampire too." Diana replied, "Is that why Matthew went away? Did the congregation order him to make me a vampire?" So Isabel was suggesting that if Diana becomes a vampire, she and Matthew wouldn't be breaking any congregation rules. Peter Knox nor any of the witches could harass her or come after her. Isabel urged on, "Don't you see? If you must be with Matthew, then become one of us and put him and yourself out of danger. The witches might want to keep you as their own, but they cannot object to your relationship if you are a vampire too." Then all three of them wondered if the lab break-in at Oxford was a demon, witch, or vampire. Isabel and Martha surmised it was a witch, and Peter Knox must most likely had something to do with it. Isabel tells Diana Matthew's full name and says Matthew's father was killed by witches and Nazis. Diana calls home to her Aunt Sarah and Em and tells them about Matthew's enemy, Domenico. Then she tells them she loves Matthew. Em warns her the congregation will do what they must to end the relationship. Diana says they have to kill me too. Sarah reminded Diana that her mother died the same way she would. Her mother, Rebecca, ignored warnings not to follow her father, Stephen, to Nigeria, where they were both murdered.
Oh boy. Here we go again with the congregation. Oh my God, dangerous congregation. I mean, they are dangerous though. She told her she would get killed. I don't know why Diana is not listening, GiGi. If your aunt tell you she know about the congregation and how they could kill you, they could kill your parents, and you're not listening. But I do have to say though, that congregation is just straight up thugs. And they just unorganized. I'm telling you, I got receipts on this. I got receipts and recordings, GiGi. They don't get along with each other, and they just a bunch of ghetto thugs. And I don't know how they get organized, but I do believe they are deadly. But they just stay deadly, and I guess recordings on how they conversation. They, like I say, they never meet in person. But they always do their little Zoom meetings and conference calls. That's how they do it, GiGi. They real secret, it's a secret society, so they always video conferencing each other. They do video conferences, do Zoom meetings, you know. So, I told you, it'd be the vampires and gay boys, and some of them demons, and the witches ain't nothing but some trannies. Them demons are too, some of them straight up trannies. And so I got a recording of one of the transgender witches going in on one of the gay vampires about his filter. I mean, this gay vampire got a filter on, and this is to show you how ghetto they are. They get into an argument because this transgender witch tells this gay boy vampire this making fun of his filter. I mean, it's just a hot mess, GiGi. I don't see how they so organized, call themselves a congregation, but I got receipts, and here's the recording. So, here we go, GiGi. Continue on. Here's the receipts, and here's the recording.
Okay, here's another recording Shaquita has. Here we go.
And you tried to read me, honey.
It's not even no read. This is what the filter was giving. Everybody in the comments reading.
You tried to say I look like that lady on Bingo. That's what you said.
I said the lady with the big droopy cheeks. Yeah, her. That's what
you.
She don't, right? That's what the filter gave.
Girl, I like you, me. Don't get whooped. Bitch, on the hood, I'll come break your face.
You better come in. Come on. Come on now. Come on, pull up. Pull up.
Bitch. You better check up on it, bitch.
Okay. Pull up.
Listen, you out there running from everybody in Atlanta.
Who I'm running from, sugars?
They ran you off Bingo.
Baby, I'm on Bingo. They ran you off Bingo. That's what it is. They ran you off Bingo. Okay, the women ain't run nobody off, sugars. Get it confused. You got it confused because ain't nobody run nobody off, baby.
Then where you go?
I'm on the Bingo. We took a break. Come on.
Yeah, can I see your face?
We took a break, sugars. What are you talking about?
Thank God. Can I see your face?
Let me move this out the way. We took a break. I look rough right now.
You always look rough. The thing that's nothing new. Your fucking feet hard as a.
You talking about my feet? Let me tell your strong chick ass something. You better shut the hell up because you can't talk about nobody else. When you over there look like motherfucking hat and a motherfucking cat, bitch, you can't motherfucking say a fuck ass thing to me green eyed Sam I am. The fuck? Girl, you better go on somewhere looking like motherfucking chimpanzee. Auntie, don't do it, okay? Because I'm in the mood too.
Bitch, I'm in the mood too, cuz.
So what you want to do?
I don't want that motherfucker.
No, you don't want that work. You don't want that work. So what you want to do? What you want to do? And that's what I advise you to keep on motherfucking doing, okay? Because this right here, what you doing ain't motherfucking working for you, okay? It ain't working for you.
So why you over here doing all that motherfucking extra shit? Get that school. We hired you bitches on the motherfucking rock. honey. So sign up.
Hire what?
I got hoe, cause you don't want that motherfucking work.
No, you don't want that work, sugar.
Not what you want, honey.
No, you don't want that work, baby.
You do not want these hands, girl. They are leaked up.
Baby, everything leaked off.
They are leaked up.
Everything.
These hands are leaked up.
Everything is leaked off. Can we see the paperwork? Where's the lethal?
You supposed to be my niece. And you
okay, and you supposed to be my auntie. You over here dragging me. All I just said is your cheeks gave the big lady cheeks. That's all I said. I didn't say nothing. And if you started dragging me, you know you look cute, girl. It's just a filter.
Well, you need to put a filter on your hard ass face, cause bitch, you up here transitioning.
And why you think it's a motherfucking filter on now? And when you been transitioning your whole motherfucking life, motherfucking Sam, I am, girl, you better shut the motherfucking fuck up. The fuck come out somebody transitioning. Girl, it took you how long to get where the fuck you at? You better sit the motherfucker down, bitch, cause you still not motherfucking done. Hey, you talk about hoe. You ain't talking about a fuck ass thing, cause you still not done what the fuck you done, girl. You still got motherfucking work to do, bitch.
Bitch, you'll never look at me.
What I'm looking at? What I'm looking at?
Bitch.
I can go get that damn too. Dr. Miami, here I go. The hell? It's nothing. It's nothing to pay for what you did.
I'm the girl.
Okay, so M begs her to come back home and forget about Matthew. She refuses, but Sarah lets Dinah know she's against the congregation, saying if the congregation is made up of things like Domenico Michelle, then they can all go to hell. After talking with her aunts, she called Matthew at his lab back in the U.S. and he'd been checking up on the break-in. He tells her nothing was stolen, but someone tried to hack into the computers. Later, while she was going through the drawers in the desk of Matthew's library, Diana found out 2 metal seals used to seal letters with wax. The inscriptions on the seals led her to believe that Matthew or his father belonged to an order of knights, the Knights of Lazarus. She read more about the knights. The knights were supposedly some type of rogue crusaders that the French king disbanded in the year 1312, or a military led by the vampires. Further investigation, she found what looked like account books. The knights funded schools, hospitals, and wars. Knights who were vampires or led by vampires. Later, after she left the library, she went to her bedroom and got ready for bed. When she got a call from Matthew saying he was done with his business in Oxford and was on the way home to France, he told her he missed her and loved her.
The end.
It's not the end yet, no.
What?
Nope.
What? You mean that's not the end?
No.
Well, wait a minute, GiGi the reader. It says, right, I read the book too. I'm listening to what you said. I mean, the book was too boring for me to read all of it, but I'm listening to what you said. It says right here that he says he went to Oxford to check on what happened when they broke in on his lab. And he was done with his business. Now he's going back, because he's coming back to France to his mother's chateau, where Diana's waiting for him. And he said he loved her. And she said she told his mother earlier in the story that she loved him. So, you know, and now she met the vampires over there where he lived at. She met his mother. The end.
It's 200 more pages.
300 pages. Oh my. Just put us out of our misery, GiGi, to read. Just put us out of our misery. And let it be the end.
It gets better.
Okay, so if you say it's gonna get better,
Yep.
I guess it'll get better somewhere. Alright. Whatever. Alright, continue on.
Okay, Matthew returns to his mother's chateau back to Dinah. He tells her his mother and Martha more about the break-in at the lab. He says Miriam and Marcus were there, but nothing was harmed. He tells her about her room at the college. Security put new locks on her doors. The intruders didn't take anything, but they were looking for something. He says she believes they were looking for samples of DNA in her bathroom, like hair or fingernail clippings, but Matthew surmises that the burglars were witches and vampires from the congregation who were still searching for the Ashmole 782 book. They know Dinah is the only person who can obtain the book. They want to know the mystery of how she's the only one that can acquire it. He tells her most likely powerful witches have been watching her since her parents died. One of the most boring chapters in this book is when Diana insists Matthew let her watch him hunt and kill a deer to feed on because he needs the blood for his blood supply. And the crazy part is that it says he bended on his knees for 2 hours waiting for a deer and he felt kinship with his prey.
Yeah, I'm with you, GiGi, on this part. This don't make sense. So now he's hunting a deer, and it says that is crazy. It says he crouched with bended knees for 2 hours while waiting for a deer, so he could feel what? Kinship with his prey?
Yep.
What is this writer? I just don't like this writer. I don't like this book. I don't like this story. I don't like this writer. And GiGi, I'm telling you, the most exciting thing is the congregation is trying to kill Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the most exciting part, because they so crazy. But him sitting there, what hunter bends on his knees for 2 hours because he's trying to find a kinship with a damn deer before he kills it?
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Is we near the end yet?
No, not yet.
Oh my God. I can't take this. Okay, I'll see you, GiGi. I'll be back when you mention the congregation. Every time you mention the congregation, I'll be back. Because I got receipts. At least I can say I got receipts on the congregation. It's a recordings. But, okay, moving on. Here's your mic back. Continue on.
Yeah, after the kill and after feeding the deer's blood, he chats with Diana and kisses her.
Now, wait a minute. I said I wouldn't be back until you mentioned the congregation again, but wait a minute. You mean to tell me that he did just say that he kisses Diana after drinking the deer's blood? You mean to tell me Diana is a fool enough to let this crazy nut kiss her in the mouth after kissing some Lyme disease deer, after biting a deer that probably got Lyme disease or some kind of tick bites or ticks on it, and had blood in his mouth from a deer? She kisses him.
I guess so.
Okay. This makes me have dry heaves just listening. I mean, I just want to puke. I'm having dry heaves just think, oh my God, that is so disgusting. That is just disgusting. She must be in love with that man. You gonna kiss this man after he been sucking on a dead deer? Okay. Alright. Okay, moving on. We gotta get through this. We can get through. Okay, next. Alright. Here's your mic back. Here you go, GiGi. Here's your mic back. Continue on.
Okay, later when they go back to the chateau, they're sitting down eating dinner when Matthew asks Martha where Isabel was. She said she went out to the village to see the priest. Priest meaning the vampire named Gerbert, who once was a priest before he was a vampire. He was also a member of the congregation and said she was making sure Domenico wasn't lurking about anywhere in the village or near their home, the chateau. Matthew refers to Diana as his wife to Martha. Diana asks him, did I miss something? When were we married? He tells her, the moment I came home, I said I love you. And as far as vampires are concerned, we are married.
Okay, now here we go again. Another part that don't make no damn sense to me, GiGi. Okay, so now the vampires get married just by saying we're married. No wedding, no ring, no nothing. No papers signed. Just they married. So he just said they married.
Yep.
Okay. You know, I just want to be glad when the congregation catch up with both of them. I'm so sick of these two, I swear. Oh my God. It's just so cornballish. The writer needs to be punched in her face. That wrote this book. What's her name? Let me see. Deborah Harkness. Okay. She needs to be punched in her face for this. Okay. Alright. Okay, here's your mic back, GiGi. Continue on.
Okay, he went on to say vampires mate the way lions do or wolves. They select their mate, they're mated for life, and the rest of the community acknowledges their bond. In the next chapter, Diana wakes up and takes a stroll through the chateau's garden while suddenly she's snatched up into the air by someone. It's a flying witch who has been waiting for her. They're both airborne. Diana asks, "Who are you?" She told her she was not her enemy. She carries Diana off and up into the air, over trees and hills to an abandoned castle. They land in a courtyard. She suddenly finds herself there alone with the witch, and to her horror, there stood Domenico Michele. Next to Domenico was another vampire, Gerbert of Arlick, the vampire pope. The strange witch thanked Gerbert for finding the castle for her, a place where she won't be disturbed. He asks, "May I examine your witch?" She tells him, "Diana Bishop is in my care now. There is no need for your presence here any longer." He immediately starts to talk about the book to Diana, saying, "It's a strange book, 1,000 years ago, and I took it from a great wizard in Toledo. When I brought it to France, it was already bound by layers of enchantment."
He took it from a wizard in Toledo? 1,000 years ago? Okay, first of all, Toledo, what is he talking about? Which Toledo he talking about, GiGi? We can't be talking about Toledo, Ohio. Okay. Well, he need to specify. I don't know if he talking about Toledo, Europe somewhere, or must be another Toledo. Because he damn sure ain't talking about Toledo, Ohio. Okay, let me get out of here. Let me go Google Toledo, another Toledo. And see if I can find one, GiGi. I'm so sick of this book and these people. Okay. Alright, here's your mic back. Continue on.
Okay, so Diana quickly snapped at the witch and asked, "Who are you?" She replied, "My name is Sato Javrin." Diana asked, "Why did you kidnap me?" Sato replied, "We tried to make you see how dangerous Clairemont was. As witches, we didn't want to go to these events, but you refused to listen. You wouldn't join us for the Maybon. You ignored Peter Knox. Every day the vampire drew closer, but you're safely beyond his reach now. We don't blame you for this, Diana. You led such a sheltered childhood, it wasn't possible for you to see him for what he is." Diana assured her she was no way with Matthew against her will. She told her involvement with Matthew was completely voluntary and of her own free will, but Sato tried to convince Diana that at some point Matthew had to put her under some type of spell, saying maybe he slipped her some of his blood in her sleep. She assured Diana and Matthew's only interest in her was to get to the manuscript. Diana denies it, saying Matthew loves her, but when Sato informed her that the witch she knew named Gillian, who worked in the library, the one who'd been watching her, was killed. Matthew brought her to France and went back to Oxford to check on his lab. It was during that time Gillian was killed. Clairemont killed her. It's why he took you away from Oxford so quickly. "No, Matthew wouldn't kill her," Diana replied. Sato snapped back at her. "I assure you he did. He left her body propped up against Peter's door at the Randolph Hotel as to warn us all." Diana's head began to swim. She began to think it was possible that Matthew did kill Gillian. Sato continued, "You must let me help you. This is going too far, and you are in terrible danger. I can teach you to use your power. Then you'll be able to protect yourself from Clairemont and other vampires like Gerbert and Domenico. You will be a great witch one day, just like your mother. You can trust me, Diana. We're family." But Diana still refused to believe Sato, so she asked her, "Gillian told me that witches killed my parents. Can you deny it? Tell me the truth. What happened to her? What happened in Nigeria?" The questions must have pissed Sato off. With a flick of her wrist, she picked Diana up and slammed her onto the old castle floor. Then she shouted to Diana, "You must give up Matthew Clairemont and show us what you did to call the manuscript." Diana replied, "I will never give up my husband, nor will I help any of you to claim Ashmole 782. It doesn't belong to us." Sato continued to torture her. At that point, Sato was whooping Diana so bad it says she threw her down a flight of old castle stairs into the dungeons.
GiGi. So finally, it sounds like somebody finally caught up with Diana from that congregation. And she done whipped Diana from one end of that castle to the other. I told you, GiGi, I told you there was some thugs. It's like the Bloods and the Crips congregation. Now she whipping on Diana. She better use some of them powers she got. Okay, alright. Here's your mic back. Continue on.
Okay. Meanwhile, after Diana has been thrown into a dungeon of the abandoned castle by Satu, Matthew, Isabel, and Martha are frantically searching for her and wondering how she could disappear from the garden of the chateau without a trace. Isabel called Matthew's older brother Baldwin. She assured him he would be able to find Diana. Baldwin St. Clair, as he was known in financial markets. He and Matthew never got along and were not fond of each other. They never liked each other. As soon as he showed up at Isabel's chateau, Baldwin and Matthew got into a physical fight. He yelled at Matthew, "How could you take up with a witch knowing what they did to father?" After fighting, Baldwin stormed away, telling them that he refused to help find or defend a witch, whether it was Matthew's wife or not, but stopped in his tracks when Matthew yelled out he would get the Knights of Lazarus to help him find Diana. Baldwin protested, saying, "You can't be serious. If you rally the Brotherhood, it will be a tantamount to a declaration of war." Then Matthew told Baldwin if he didn't help, he'd be dismembered as a knight. Matthew threatened, "Baldwin, I call upon you to fulfill your sworn oath and enter the field of battle, where you will obey my commands until I release you." Finally, Baldwin agrees to help Matthew. After long thoughts and searching, Baldwin and Matthew go over and over where the witches could have taken Diana off to. Diana finally thinks of the last place they didn't think to look, the barren mountains and the Cantel, where Gerbert the priest was born centuries ago. It was nothing but old ruins now. Finally, Matthew called Diana's aunts and asked if he could if she could have been spellbound by another witch, meaning she only refused to use her powers, but was put under spells to bind her powers and left unable to use them. He asked who would do such a thing. Finally, Sarah said she knew it was her mother Rebecca who put a spell on Diana. The spell was meant to protect her. Not even Diana knew her powers had been spellbound, but now she was being tortured and questioned by Satu as to why she couldn't or wouldn't use her powers. Determined to get to the castle they suspected Diana was being held at, Matthew and Baldwin took a helicopter to the old castle ruins south of the Chateau Septours. When they went to the old castle called La Pierre.
Okay, so Matthew and his brother Baldwin finally found the castle called La Pierre, where Diana is being beat up at by this witch. Well, we know for one thing, she never forget the name of that castle, La Pierre. This is the name of the castle where she didn't get whooped. She got her ass whooped at La Pierre. And second, wait a minute, and all of a sudden, GiGi, let's not smooth over this part, a helicopter. So we know Matthew rich and got money, but a helicopter, now he got a helicopter. Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
And where's Handy? Who is he now, James Bond? He just out the blue, he got a helicopter. Okay. And now we didn't see that's coming.
No, we didn't.
I thought vampires could shapeshift into wolves and bats. Why come he couldn't, him and his brother couldn't shapeshift into the damn bats and fly over there to the castle? I mean, they can shapeshift. Look, GiGi, I'm just saying, that's what we done read so far, that he can shapeshift.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. This writer, I'm so sick of her. Deborah Harkness. Oh my God. A helicopter. Okay. Alright, okay. I'm gonna get back in your mic back. Continue on.
Okay. But smartly enough, the two decide that the witches had probably thrown Diana into the 60-foot pit in the castle's dungeon. They threw her and left her there alone. Finally, Matthew and his brother make it inside the castle. Matthew finds the pit and yells down to Diana. Diana. She yelled back, "Matthew, He yelled, "I'm coming down," but Baldwin warned Matthew not to go down. He said, "If you go down there, I won't be able to get you out." The whole time Diana was stuck in the pit, she was talking to visions of her mother and father, and it was her mother, Rebecca, who could unbind her powers. Because he knew he couldn't climb out of the pit with Diana, Matthew yelled to her, "Diana, you can fly. Can you do that?" She had to use her witch powers to get out of the pit. She replied, "I think so. Are you sure Sato is gone?" He yelled back, "Fly up and we'll get away."
What? Fly up and we'll get away? What type of rescue is that? You mean to tell me they took a helicopter, called themselves big and bad, 2 vampires, so yell down in a hole and say, "Oh, can you fly up?" Ooh, do you think if she could fly, she would have rescued her damn self? What's wrong with Matthew and his dumb brother? Can you fly up?
That didn't make sense.
If she could have did that, she basically got to rescue herself.
Right.
Fly up and we can get away. Okay. Okay, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. Oh my God, they stupid. You know what?
I don't know.
Okay. Why come he couldn't sprout wings and turn to her back before it fly her? It's the same way she's supposed to fly off that hole. Oh my God, this is so... Okay, I'm gonna give you here's your mic back, GiGi. I'm so done with this writer who wrote this book. I could find her and punch her in her face. Okay. Here's your mic back. I'm so done. Continue on.
Diana stared at the faded image of her parents. Her mother assured her she could do it. Diana shut her eyes and imagined a ribbon in place. She threw it towards the white ring above her. The ribbon unfurled and soared through the hole, taking her body up with it. She was flying out of the hole. The vision of her mother was smiling at her. Matthew and his brother grabbed her shoulder and lifted her out the pit. "I knew you could do it." Matthew's brother was already running towards the door. Matthew picked her up and ran along with Baldwin back to the waiting helicopter. After getting her back to his house, the chateau, Matthew and Isabel inspected Diana's injuries and wounds inflicted by Sato. He pressed his fingers to her cheekbone. She told him, "My face hit the floor." Then she asked, "Is it broken?" He replied, "I don't think so, just badly bruised."
Oh my God. Did she ask her, was her face broken?
Yep.
And she says, "My face hit the floor." And he says, "Is it broken?" Hell yeah, your damn face broke, girl. Oh my God. See, now this is what her aunts are trying to warn her about. She told her to leave that convict is going to catch up with her. They was not playing. And that switched and took off to that castle and whooped her and broke her face. Yes, your face is broken. And they told her to mess around with these vampires.
Right.
Who got to the castle and told her to ask her could she fly out the hole. She basically saved herself anyway.
Yep.
And they didn't say you for getting your face broke. Okay, alright. Okay, GiGi. Here's your mic back. Oh my God. Okay, alright. Continue on.
They took care of her, though, giving her morphine for pain and antibiotics. She soaked her bloody clothes off in a hot tub of water. Matthew's next plan for Diana was to leave the next day and go to a city called Lyon. Baldwin would go with them. They'd take the helicopter to Baldwin's plane and the plane back to Oxford in the U.S. Finally, they land in LaGuardia Airport, and Matthew drives Diana to her home in Madison, New York, to her aunt's home. They plan to stay there for a few days. He's introduced to her Aunt Sarah and Emily. When they see Diana for the first time since she returned to the States, Sarah starts to examine Diana right away. Sarah and Em are both shocked to see her physical condition. Sarah angrily asks, "Who did this to you, Diana?" She replies, "A witch named Sato Jarvinian. I think she's Swedish." Sarah responds, "She's not Swedish, she's Finnish and quite powerful. The next time I see her, she'll wish she'd never been born." Matthew chimes in, "There won't be much left after I'm done, so if you want a shot at her, you'll have to reach her before I do. And I'm known for my speed."
Shut up, Matthew. You're known for your speed. Where was you when she got snatched up and thrown into the castle and beat up and got her face broke? Boy, bye. All of a sudden he tough. Talking about what he gonna do. Oh, you gotta get to her before I do. And I know for my speed. Matthew, go sit down. Oh my God. Donna sitting up there with a broke ankle, broke ribs, broke cheekbone, broke collarbone, broke ass bone, and he talking shit. Go somewhere, Matthew. Wow. Okay, but that's our hero, though. That's Matthew, her hero.
You're right.
After she done got broke all up. Okay, all right. Okay, here's your mic back, GiGi. Continue on.
In the next chapter, Diana finds out one of the many rare powers she has is something called witchfire. Matthew discusses it with Sarah, and the next day he proceeds to tell him how rare and dangerous for a witch to possess the power to conjure witchfire. Diana remembered that her mother told her aunt that she spellbound her, and she would remain spellbound until the shadowed man came. Diana believes her mother had prophesied that Matthew would be the shadowed man who came to protect her. Matthew surmises to Diana that the congregation wants Diana's powers and the Knights of Lazarus too. They want to bring down the Knights Brotherhood, and they want the manuscript. He convinces Diana that Satu and Gerbert will come again, and she'll have to fight back, not like a human but like a witch, and she must learn to use her powers. Diana learns to use her powers to fly over the trees in the forest next to her aunt's home. Later in chapter 34, we find out there's a letter hidden in her aunt's house, a letter addressed to Diana from her mother, written when she was 7 years old, the same year her parents were killed. The letter read as follows: that you are reading this means that your father and I succeeded. We were able to convince the congregation that it is your father and not you whose power they sought. You mustn't blame yourself. It was the only decision we could possibly make. We trust that you are old enough now to understand. Also with the letter was a missing page that was torn out of the manuscript or book of Ashmole 782, the book everyone was after. But there was 3 missing pages from the manuscript, and they wondered who had the other 2 pages. The dumbest part of this romance between Diana and Matthew is a few chapters back. Matthew claims Diana as his wife, so in the vampire culture or tradition, it officially makes her his wife just by stating the words, "This is my wife now." Alright, so now in chapter 34, while she's visiting with her aunts, Marcus and Miriam calls Matthew to tell him they're coming to New York from England to report something to him. Miriam is Matthew's assistant, and Marcus is Matthew's son, not his biological son, but his vampire son. Matthew made him a vampire, so Diana is claiming him as her stepson. So, doesn't make much sense to me.
Okay. So now, all of a sudden, Diana got a stepson. And keep in mind, she only been knowing Matthew for a few weeks, so he even claimed her as his wife. And now, his vampire son is now her stepson. And she's saying she insists he stay at her aunt's house instead of a hotel. Okay, this writer is just weird. In a book and story, this romance. It's not so much the plot, GiGi. It's just their romance and their relationship just don't make sense to me. Oh my God, okay. Here's your mic back. Continue on. Oh my God, what is the end coming, GiGi the reader? Okay. Continue on.
So since he's her stepson now and flying to Madison, New York, she insists that he come to their house to stay instead of going to a local hotel. Sarah tells Matthew Diana's father, Stephen, had the ability to time travel, so she found out it was her father, Stephen, who put a spell on the manuscript, making it so that only Diana would be able to remove it from the library shelves. The news Marcus and Miriam had for Matthew was more DNA results from Diana's blood test. They found out that she had traces of a chimera, a mythological beast that combined the body parts of a lioness, a dragon, and a goat. She also found out she had a twin brother who died in her mother's womb. Her mother had a miscarriage, but Diana absorbed most of his DNA, so she may have absorbed some of his magical traits, one being a time walker. So Miriam surmises from Diana's DNA the book Ashmole 782 may not only be about the origin of all creatures, witches, demons, and vampires, but also a book about the reproduction and how, quote, vampires and witches may be able to have children together after all. So my other mixed partners. Sarah says it's in nonsense because creatures are not going extinct, but Matthew argues that there are less and less creatures reproducing, and it's harder for vampires to create vampires from humans, and the demon population is down as well as witches. In protest, if there is a change in reproduction, why should it start with Diana and Matthew? So Matthew surmises that it all circles back to the congregation, saying, so that's what the congregation is worried about. They fear the birth of children that are neither vampire nor witch nor demon, but mixed. What would they do then? Sarah questions why Martha sent Dinah back to the States with her special blend of tea. She say the tea smelled like a contraceptive herbs. Finally, Miriam says the book could start a war between witches, vampires, and the Knights of Lazarus. Diana says she's being ridiculous. Miriam tells her what Satu did to you was a challenge. Matthew responded by calling the Brotherhood. Miriam reveals that Matthew was the cause of her husband Bertrand's death. Bertrand took the blame for Eleanor's death, who Matthew was at fault for, so Bertrand was beheaded for the death instead. Furthermore, Miriam says Matthew killed Gillian, the librarian, also. Killed her for spying on Diana. Sarah kicks everybody out of her house. She's angry at everybody and has to cool down.
Wow. So Sarah got pissed off at everybody and kicked everybody out of her house because she hit Penny. It's too much. It's just too much, GiGi. Miriam had come in there, his assistant, and told on and spilt the beans on Matthew, saying he's basically a murderer. Or he killed the librarian that was spying on Diana. And he's the cause of her husband's death, Mary's husband, Bertrand's death. He's the cause of his death. And now Sarah is like, what the heck did you bring back to my house? They are all her. This is Sarah's house. This is her aunt's house. And they made themselves welcome to spend the night. Or at least Diana came in there and told them they welcome to spend the night. I'd be pissed too. I would throw them all out my house for a minute too so I could cool down. I wouldn't be bothered with none of this beef, but that's Sarah and her aunts. Oh my God, this book. Okay. Alright, we're gonna see where this leads to. Alright, okay, here's your mic back, GiGi. Continue on.
Okay. While temporarily locked outside, Diana and Matthew talk about the possibility of having children. They both agree against it, and she'll keep drinking the contraceptive tea Martha gave her. They have to concentrate on keeping two families together, the Clairemonts and the Bishops. Matthew explains to M why he had to kill the librarian Gillian Chamberlain, saying she was a serious threat to Diana. We find out for sure that, weirdly enough, Matthew claimed Diana as his wife. Less than a month of them knowing each other. We know this because he asked her from when she had her last period. The subject comes up because although vampires aren't supposed to be able to procreate, meaning have babies or pregnant women, her special DNA and odd DNA may make them possible now according to the lab studies. She says her last cycle was the day before Maybon, the annual witches meeting held once a year. The day before she met Matthew. Which I don't know why he asked her that, because she's taking contraceptive tea, but they have not consummated their relationship yet. So they haven't did anything together. But anyway, moving on. Then she asked Matthew, can you be around me while I'm menstruating? Well, vampires are attracted to blood. He said, of course he could be around her at that time. It's not the same thing, he told her. His attraction to blood doesn't work like that.
Oh my God, I'm so gross. Oh, they letting us know more about vampires than I ever cared to know, GiGi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I never want to know this much about a vampire. She asked him, can he be around her while she menstruating? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Okay, so we found out he can be around a menstruating woman because vampires like blood. Okay, I'm done. TMI. Too much information for me, GiGi. Okay, moving on. We didn't end yet, GiGi.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, continue on.
Mostly in chapter 37, Matthew talks with Miriam and Diana about how he'll construct and command his small army of knights. Diana practices how to cast witchcraft spells with her aunt Sarah, which she's not good at. Suddenly, one night, while strolling through the apple orchard outside of her aunt's house, a female vampire shows up out of nowhere. She's perched on a tree limb, spying on Diana and Matthew, and when Matthew notices her, Matthew tells Diana to run back into the house. But Diana refuses to leave his side. The nymph-like vampire jumps from the tree and introduces herself to Diana. Her name is Juliet. She knows Matthew. She's an ex-lover of his. She threatens to kill Diana. Matthew tells her, "Don't do this, Juliet. If you ever love me, you better go." At that, Juliet began punching and kicking Matthew, whipping up on him good, and she yelled out, "You belong to me, Matthew." With the second punch, she ripped into his chest. Diana unexpectedly conjured up a ball of flames from her fingertips. Suddenly, she threw the 2 balls of flames at Juliet that set her afire. With the flick of her wrist, Diana tossed Juliet's smoldering body away from Matthew. She fell on her back, her body in flames. She stood up. Then Diana sent a thunderbolt of chest into her that tore through her rib cage and came out the other side and turned her lungs to coal.
Just literally smoked. I guess she used her power this time. She definitely used her power this time. The last time I told her it's a good time. But this time she learned how to use her powers, and she just literally smoked Juliet. That set her body afire and tossed her in the air, and then sent a thunderbolt through her chest. Wow. That turned her lungs to coal. Oh my God. I guess she said not this time. She wasn't going to get beat up a second time after that whooping Sato put on her. She didn't Okay, Diana. Alright, that was a good comeback. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, here's your mic back, GiGi. Continue on.
Juliet was reduced to a lump of burning flesh. Diana destroyed her. She was dead, but Matthew was on the ground bleeding profusely from his gaping wounds, his throat and chest. Juliet had tore open only moments before. Diana held onto him, screaming out, "You can't leave me, I won't have it." He sniped back, There's nothing to be done about that now. Death has me in its grip." Diana replied, "I can't lose you, Matthew. Please hold on until Marcus gets here." When Marcus finally showed up, Diana yelled for him to help. He examined his wounds and said, "The jugular is nearly severed and the aorta has been damaged. Not even Matthew's blood can work fast enough to heal him in both places." By then, Miriam and her aunts Em and Sarah had ran outside, and they were all surrounding him. Quickly thinking, Diana took a knife from her pocket and slashed the inside of her elbow. She held her arm in front of Matthew's mouth and told him to drink. He drank until life slowly came back to his eyes and skin. Then he bit into her neck and drank some more, and she had saved him. No, it's not the end.
What was that again?
It's not the end yet.
That's not the end?
No.
Oh my God. Oh. How much longer, GiGi? I mean, come on. She done saved the day. She killed Juliet. She showed you can use her powers. She saved Matthew's life. She got all these visitors and people at her aunt's house. I know they tired of Diana and all her new people, them house guests. And not even had to fight a dude with one of the congregation leaders. And she killed and saved Matthew's life. This should definitely be the end. Come on now, GiGi. Oh my God. How many more pages? Oh, okay. Not too much. Not too many more.
Yeah, not too many.
Okay, GiGi. One last time for this last time. Here's your mic back. Continue on.
Okay, next chapter, after bringing Matthew back to life with her blood, Diana is on the brink of death from blood loss. But Miriam and Marcus help mend her torn aorta and give her just enough blood without making her into a vampire. Matthew made sure that when she made it back to the house, she addresses Matthew about Juliet. I killed her. He said, you had no choice. Miriam lets Diana know Gerbert and the congregation had sent and planned for Juliet to kill and rid them of Diana, but didn't expect for Diana to kill her instead. Matthew lets Diana know the congregation will make another attempt on her life, but next time they may send more than one vampire or witch. But although Juliet Duran was his ex-girlfriend, he let Diana know she was originally sent to spy on him by Gerbert and the congregation. Gerbert made her into a vampire and sent her to spy on Matthew. Diana's Aunt M lets her know that she does not approve or understand how she can fall in love with Matthew after knowing him only a few weeks. Diana and Matthew have a family meeting with her aunts and Marcus and Miriam. He tells them he's decided to hide Diana where the congregation can't find her in time. He means for them to go back in time into the past. They would be time walking, but Diana would have to practice how to bring Matthew with her. Diana will have to go back in time to meet other witches who could teach her more about her powers and how to use them. Next, they have unexpected visitors. Nathaniel Wilson, a demon, and his pregnant wife, Sophia, a witch. He's Agatha Wilson's son. They show up at her aunt's house, and Sophie says she has something to give to Diana. What Sophie had to give to Diana was a small figurine no more than 4 inches tall and made from old silver that glowed with the softly burnished light seen in museum showcase. Sophia said it's been in her family for years, the Normans. Marcus asked, what is it? Matthew said, it's a chess piece, the White Queen. How do you know that? Sarah asked. Because it once was mine. My father gave it to me, Matthew replied. How did it end up in North Carolina? Diana asked. I lost it in a wager. I have no idea how it got to North Carolina, he responded. She asked, do you remember when you last had it? He said he was playing a game with it on All Souls night, and that's when he lost the wager. Sophie explained her mother was a time walker. She traveled back in the 1700s often. Nathaniel snapped, Sophie and I just came to deliver the statue or whatever it is so she can sleep at night. But before they could leave, Em and Sarah talked them into staying there at their house before they headed back home. Later that evening, Diana and her aunts found a poppet in the house with one of Diana's mother's earrings in it. Em and Sarah decided that Sophie and Nathaniel will help them fight the congregation and they'll stay there at their house for now. So next, Em and Diana, Matthew, along with Sarah, practice time walking by teleporting themselves from their barn on the property back to the house. Next, another visitor comes to the house, Matthew's friend Hamish Osborne, and also a ninth knight of the Lazarus group. He has brought Matthew some important papers from Oxford he wanted. Matthew explained to Hamish that there was about to be an all-out war between the congregation and the Clairemonts and the bishops, also involving the Knights of Lazarus as allies. Later that evening, Hamish warns Diana that Matthew will not be the same person when they time hop or walk back to the 1700s. He'll be a different man. So Diana and Matthew decide to go time walking into the 1700s on All Souls Night, better known as Halloween night. The next chapter, because Hamish is a lawyer, he's drawn up papers for Diana and Matthew to sign because they'd be time traveling back in the 1700s and giving up their responsibilities in the 21st century. He had Marcus, who's a doctor, write a doctor's excuse for her job, explaining to a conference organizer that she could no longer be booked to speak in the month of November. He also prepared a will for her to sign. She informed him she didn't own anything, no property and no car. But Matthew surprised her by saying, yes, you do. Even though they weren't officially married on paper, he showed where he legally wrote up a marriage agreement giving her numerous properties, homes in Paris, London, Rome, and Jerusalem. He also had given her jets and cars.
Oh, wow. So there's big advantage of being married to Matthew. I mean, we knew Matthew had bank for a while. Homes in London, Rome, and Jerusalem. And jets and cars. Wow. Okay. Okay, Diana. You straight now. At least you're married to, he got money. Let's say that. Okay. Right. Maybe this is a happy ending. You get all of that. He could claim me to be married to him too. Okay, as long as they got it legal, make sure it's legal, Diana. You know he had all that. Okay. Alright. Okay, back to the story. Continue on.
It also arranged that Nathaniel would join the Knights of Lazarus. Hamish declares that the line of congregation was developed. They decided to found and develop their own group, a group called the Conventicle. They would include everyone in the house as the members. Marcus would lead the Knights of Lazarus, while Matthew time traveled with Diana. Later, we find out that Diana and Matthew still haven't consummated their marriage. Finally, everyone has left the house. Nathaniel and Sophie on the way back to North Carolina, Hamish on the way back to Scotland, and Marcus and Miriam on the way back to Matthew's lab in England. Em and Sarah off on a trip with friends to Arizona. Diana and Matthew are alone at the house and are prepared to try time travel back to the 1590 instead of the 1700s as they thought. Oddly enough, the time was assigned by his mother, Isabel. They stepped out of their modern clothes into old-time linen shirts and smocks. They didn't bring anything modern with them like their cell phones, watches, or anything else from the 21st century. They walked into the barn behind their aunt's house where they decided to start their magical journey and time walk back into time. The end. So that's the end. We went through 579 page of a corny romance for it to end like this. Keep in mind, I only review fantasy books, not romance. And the only reason we read this book, or I read this book, is because it's basically a fantasy book with demons, witches, and vampires. Just so happens it has a romance in it between a witch and a vampire. And the whole plot was not a bad plot, but mostly about all the creatures trying to get the book. The witches put a spell on the book and no one was able to take and read it. The vampires want the book for themselves. The demons want the book for themselves. So we just want to know who would end up with the book. So at the end, no one but the library still has the book. But a lingering threat and possibility of a war among all the creatures of the congregation teaming together to fight Clairemont, the bishops, and the Knights of Lazarus to get this book was an intriguing plot, but we end up with this dumb ending of Matthew and Diana going back in time to the 1500s, only for Diana to meet up with some witches in that era to teach her to use all of her powers. Okay, so she got to go that far back in time to get witch lessons. Why not go to the 1800s? That's what I don't understand. I'll give this book a 2 out of 5 because the 2 being because it kept me interested long enough for me to see who was going to get the book. And that was a flop because no one ended up with the book. It remained in the same place it was since the beginning of the story, in the library. But I guess that's to leave it open for a sequel, which we know there is a sequel, but I won't be bothering to read any of the sequels to this series. Okay, so I'm going to let now Shaquita, my co-narrator, speak, and I know she got something to say. So here we go.
And I know as a co-narrator, I said that the author needs to be punched in the throat, drop kicked in the chest, and slapped in the face. But obviously I was wrong. I apologize. Bitches that need to be punched, slapped, and kicked are these fake-ass, lying-ass, bougie-ass booktubers and other book reviews who should suggest these books and give them high ratings. The ones with the monetized channels who talk more about their latest journals and life goals and favorite lattes, home remodeling, and they damn Peloton bikes. They know who I'm talking about, and I'm going to start naming names. The ones who suggest these crappy-ass books and get monetary kickbacks and payouts and advertising on their channels. Really, bitch? Stop suggesting these dumbass books just because it's the popular thing to do and for money. Y'all know these books suck. You know who the hell I'm talking about. But I have to add that there are some good booktubers out there. We're weeding them out. At least I know I am. I don't know about GiGi, but I'm weeding them out from the bad, the good ones from the bad ones, but the bad ones know who they are. I can't stand one heifer in particular. She misreads a latte. Reads a latte. monkey's ass. Excuse me, but who gives a damn about her Peloton bike, girl? And bragging about her home loan. Your home loan? I mean, really, you gonna update your booktuber? You gonna update this on your home loan? Went through. Or bragging about it. Really, we don't care about your home. At least I know I don't need you to read it. I don't care about a damn home loan. I just want you to review and suggest a good book for me, a good fantasy book. And how, and a home loan, and how she's gonna build a home from the ground up, and it's gonna be huge. Yes. A home loan, she's building her house from the ground. How huge? Bitch don't have no, not child one. I know you got your dogs. I love dogs too. But you build this huge house with not one child. It's just you and your partner, rich girl bye. And I'm not even saying who suggested. I'm not even saying who suggested this book. I mean, I've seen her and other bougie booktubers suggest crappy books in general because it's the proper thing to do. I'm sorry, but those other bitches, they need to be punched in their lying ass throats. Okay. There you go. I'm done, GiGi the reader. Go ahead and announce the next review. Here you go, GiGi. Continue on. Oh, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thank you.
Okay, please join me in my next review of The Girl Who Drank the Moon. So far, it sounds like it's going to be an exciting book, better than this book that I reviewed, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. And please like and subscribe. Thank you.